All right, we'll get started here. Hello, everyone. Thanks, everyone, for attending the public involvement meeting for the State Highway 23 project here in Ripon. There's two different segments of the project between Union to Jackson and Meadowmen to Douglas Street. I'm Ryan Erdman. I'm the project manager. I handle the state highway projects in Fond du Lac County. Thanks everyone for attending again. Before we get started, I'd just like to mention that following the presentation, we'll take questions, comments, and we'll be around for discussion after the presentation. So as not to interrupt the flow of information or confuse anyone, please hold your questions till the very end. We will field general questions following the presentation, but we'll split up then and be able to discuss any questions or concerns that you have right next to the exhibits and be able to talk more specifically. Start out with the project team. Like I said, I'm Ryan Erdman. I'm the project manager. Standing in the back is the project supervisor for the Wisconsin DOT, Rob Wagner. And then the regional communications manager, Missy Cook. And then Chuck, do you want to introduce your staff?
I'm Chuck Carroll. I'm with the design consulting firm, Mead and Hunt. I'm the project manager. With me, going from the back right corner of the room, is Kyle Whitty. He's one of our design engineers. And then the blue shirt is Angie Kerrigan. She's one of the senior design engineers. The blue shirt is Mark Sauer. He's one of our environmental planners. And we've got Gwen at the signing table. She's another one of our environmental planners, Gwen Adams. So that's who's here from Mead and Hunt.
Okay, and then before I officially hand it over to Chuck, I'd like to highlight the purpose of the meeting. So we'd like to gather feedback and comment from businesses or the public on these proposed improvements, and any knowledge that you have of community events or how you use your facility. We welcome that information to help in our consideration of these proposed improvements. So that would be greatly beneficial to us. If you have questions or comments that you think of after you leave, we're going to have some contact information in the slides, and it's also available in the handouts. So you can have the comment forms in those handouts, send those via email. My email information is included there, or they're prepaid mailers as well. So just write your comment down, fold it up, and mail it out. So now I'll hand it over to Chuck, and thank you, and Wisconsin DOT appreciates your attendance.
Okay, we'll back up one slide here to the outline. Thanks, Ryan. Good afternoon, and thank you all for coming out here tonight. It's a nice day out, so glad you were deciding to spend it inside with us. So thank you. On the screen here is the outline that we'll go through on the presentation, and as Ryan mentioned, we'll take general questions at the end of the presentation. We've already introduced some of the team here, but just want to emphasize the project is a joint effort between the Wisconsin DOT and the city of Ripon. The WisDOT Northeast Region team is shown in yellow in the slide here, and the key staff there. Several of them are here right now. Ryan is the PM, Rob is the supervisor, Missy is the region communications manager, and then Tim Rank is the PDS manager, and then Tom Buchholz is the region director. The city representatives that we're coordinating with to get the city's input is the director of public works, Alan Danhoff, and the city administrator, Adam Sontag. And then, as we said, WisDOT's contracted with the firm I work for to handle the design engineering for the project. WisDOT started the project back in 2023 when they initiated it. And right now we're in the environmental study phase of the project where we're doing all the investigations. Upon completion of the environmental study phase later this year, We will then move into the design phase where we'll detail out the plans, and all the questions that you guys probably mostly will have will come during that phase. And then ultimately the roadway construction in 2030. So over the past year, we've been performing a lot of field work for the project and collecting data used in the environmental study. We've also been identifying potential alternatives to address the purpose and need of the project, which brings us to today and the first round of public involvement, where we want to continue to gather your input on the project, which will then help us to refine the alternatives and the ultimate scope of the project. And then after tonight's meeting, our project team will continue working on refining the alternatives, identifying and quantifying the environmental impacts of the various alternatives and the project itself. The next winter, we'll hold a second round of public involvement where we will present the recommended alternatives for the various sections and the proposed final scope of work of the project. And then finally, the environmental document will be finalized and then submitted for approval, with approval anticipated in the fall of 2026. The proposed project area is shaded purple on this slide. It's the same area that's the green, yellow, blue, and red on the two wall displays over there. And I should mention, both sets of displays are identical. So if you look at the one over there, it's the same over there, so they're identical. Just when we get a large group like this, we want to be able to help answer questions, and we've got two sets of displays. As Ryan mentioned, the project begins up at Union Street and ends just east of Douglas Street, but there's a gap from Jackson Street, Blackburn intersection down to just east of the intersection of Meadowman Street. So the whole project length is about 1.5 miles of Highway 23 in the city. So what's the need for the project? The existing Wisconsin 23 pavement is showing signs of distress and deterioration, and has been patched a lot of times out there. WisDOT's last pavement condition rating has the pavement on this section as rated as very poor. And then in addition, 74 of the 79 curb ramps do not meet the standards for ADA requirements. And the 4 of the 5 that do are at the railroad crossing. However, they have deficiencies for how they should be at the railroad crossings. The one that is fully compliant right now is out at the intersection of Douglas Street, but depending upon what alternative is implemented at Douglas Street, that one might be impacted by the construction. And then also the at-grade railroad crossing surface needs to be replaced. And also the city is planning to replace their water and sanitary sewer facilities within the project with the project at the same time as the road project. And then lastly, the Douglas Street intersection is experiencing crashes out there due to people failing to yield to the oncoming traffic, as they are getting confused by what lane the traffic is in.
Speak up a little bit if you can.
Okay. So,
Microphone on and all?
is it on?
Yes, now.
Okay. I guess I just got to lean into it. Sorry about that.
Don't start over though.
Don't start over? Oh, come on.
Actually, could you repeat where the current accidents are happening?
Douglas Street, at the intersection of Douglas Street
Douglas
and Highway 23. So it's the intersection at the far east end of town. It's the red section on the project there, or on the map, I should say. Okay, there's two alternatives that were being considered for the overall big picture project scope. The first one is the rehab alternative, which is basically the ongoing roadway maintenance, such as patching the pavement, including partial and full depth concrete pavement repairs. It's filling the potholes, maintaining the pavement markings, but this alternative would only be expected to extend the life of the pavement another 5 to 10 years. The second alternative that we're investigating is the pavement replacement alternative, which this alternative consists of replacing the pavement completely from back of curb to back of curb. And that would also include improvements at the Douglas Street intersection, improvements at the at-grade railroad crossing, upgrading all the curb ramps, repairing and upgrading the storm sewer system, replacement of the city's water and sewer facilities, and it also has the potential to add on-street bike accommodations. Wisconsin 23 is a connecting highway, and what is a connecting highway is connecting highways are local streets that carry state highway traffic. The city is responsible for the maintenance of the street or the highway, of the connecting highway. The state provides fundings to help maintain the local road through the Connecting Highway AIDS program. The city will continue to be responsible for maintaining the pavement, the roadway after this project. The state is not proposing any changes to the connecting highway system. So why is this important to understand what is a connecting highway? Since it's a connecting highway, the city is responsible for participating in the cost of the design and construction. The next slide shows kind of the funding responsibilities for each party for construction. And then since Wisconsin 23 is a connecting highway, the responsibility for the cost of the items are paid for either by the city or the state. The state will fund the items on the left, which includes the roadway pavement, upgrading the curb ramps, the on-street bike accommodations, the storm sewer replacement, the curb and gutter, and the signs that are needed to move the traffic. The city is responsible for those items on the right-hand side of the slide, which is the pavement maintenance, the cost of construction of the parking lanes, which we'll see when we talk about the different typical sections. The city's responsible for that cost. The cost of the sidewalk, if they want more sidewalk replaced or improved. The oversizing of the storm sewer, street lighting, the public utilities, signing not needed to move traffic, and then landscaping if there's places that they would like to improve the landscaping along the corridor. As Ryan mentioned, the project is broken into two sections, and each section has two subsections. On the wall displays and on the slide behind me, section 1 is from Union Street to Blackburn, and it's broken into two subsections. The first subsection is shown in green from Union through the curve at Jackson, and the second subsection is shown in yellow, and that's from West Fond du Lac Street to Blackburn. And then section 2 is from Meadowman Street through Douglas Street, and it's also broken into two sections. The first subsection is shown in dark blue from Meadowman Street just west of Douglas Street, and then the second subsection is shown in red, and that covers the Douglas Street intersection. And we'll talk about each one of those here as we talk about the different typical roadway section options that are being investigated. Excuse me. For the section in green on the displays, from Union Street to the curve at Jackson, we are evaluating two options for the roadway section. The first one, shown here, maintains the existing 4-lane roadway section, identical to what is out there today. The second option we are evaluating for the green section is converting the 4-lane section to a 3-lane section with a center 2-way left turn lane, or what we call a twiddle section. And this is referred to as a road diet, or you may hear it referred as a road diet. A road diet or roadway reconfiguration can improve safety, calm traffic, provide better mobility and access for all road users, and enhance the quality of life in the area. And the benefits of the road diet include a reduction in rear end and left turn crashes, reduced right angle crashes. There's less lanes for pedestrians to cross. There's an opportunity to install bike lanes. It also calms traffic and have more consistent speeds than a 4-lane section. And it's a low-cost safety solution. And in one of the handouts that has the Mythbusters title on top of it is a FHWA handout. has some of the common myths that you hear about road diets, that, you know, they're too narrow or they delay emergency response times and so forth. But in reality, for this project here, the lane width we're proposing is the same as the existing lane width that's out there today, which is 11 feet. However, with the two-way left turn roadway section, the curb face will narrow from 48 feet to 46 feet, which would increase the terrace space by 1 foot on each side, give us a little bit more of a buffer from the utility poles for safety for the roadway. And then the inclusion of the bike lanes also make it easier for large vehicles like school buses, garbage trucks, fire trucks, when they turn on and off of West Fond du Lac Street, to stay in their own lane. And then in emergencies, the drivers on multi-lane streets are often uncertain about where to go, forcing the emergency response vehicles to have to thread the needle, kind of weaving around the cars that couldn't get off to the far right. While the twiddle and the bike lane provide room for people to move to the right, and the center turn lane provides a clear path for emergency vehicles. And then removing a lane is unlikely to back up traffic, since it clears the lanes of left turning vehicles. A 4-lane street with a lot of driveways already tends to function like a 3-lane street, with the drivers utilizing the outside lane to avoid the left turning vehicles that are stopped in the inside lane. And then also, information compiled by the Federal Highway Administration shows that road diets can drastically improve a corridor's quality of life tonight, I guess, and the appeal of the area. And for the majority of the road diets implemented, the average daily traffic remained constant. Some had a decrease in vehicle traffic, while others had an increase in bike or pedestrian traffic. And again, there's 2 handouts in the back that talk about the two-way left turn lane road diet scenarios. So now moving downtown into the yellow section, from West Fond du Lac Street to Blackburn, we're also evaluating 2 options. The first one maintains the existing roadway typical section, which is shown on the slide here and also on the wall displays. As we've mentioned before, the city is responsible for the cost of the parking lanes, and in this case, the parking lane is, I want to say, 12 feet. The second option that we're looking at maintains the existing curb-to-curb width, but restripes it to include a 5-foot bike lane by narrowing the parking lane from 12 feet to 8 feet and the driving lane from 12 to 11 feet. And as we mentioned before, the city's responsible for that cost. So this option here would be a little bit less costly for the city because the parking lane is only 8 feet compared to 12 feet. Now moving on to section 2, in dark blue from Meadowman Street through Sullivan Street, we're looking at three different roadway typical sections. The first one maintains the existing roadway typical section, and is shown here. It's 1 lane in each direction with parking on both sides of the road. Again, the city is responsible for the cost of the construction of the parking lanes. The second option we are evaluating for the dark blue section maintains the existing curb-to-curb street width of 44 feet. However, it removes parking entirely from the north side of the street while maintaining parking on the south side between St. Winslow Street and Sullivan Street. It includes a 5-foot bike lane on both sides of the street. One benefit of this typical section is it reduces the city's cost share for this portion of the street by roughly 50% by removing the parking on the north side. Parking on the south side from Meadowman to St. Winslow Street would be removed, similar to what is shown in option 2C, which is this option here, which is the third option we are looking at for the dark blue section, which removes parking from both sides of the street entirely. This reduces the curb width of the street from 44 feet to 38 feet while providing a 5-foot bike lane in both directions. The reduced street width provides for increasing the terrace width on both sides by about 3 feet, so it'll be about 8.5 feet total on both sides. And with this options, since the parking is being removed, the city's cost is eliminated completely for the pavement in this area. Excuse me. Okay. For the section shown in red from Sullivan Street to Douglas Street, we're also looking at two options for the roadway typical section. The first one, again, maintains the existing typical section, and this is identical to the dark blue section that has parking on both sides. And again, the city would be responsible for the cost of the parking lane. The second option we're looking at from Sullivan Street to Douglas Street removes the parking from both sides of the street, and this is option 2C, which is the same as removing the parking between Meadowman, between Meadowman all the way up to Sullivan. This again reduces the curb to curb street width by 6 feet while providing a 5-foot bike lane in both directions, and it also increases the terrace by 3 feet on each side, and again it eliminates the city's cost share for the street because there's no parking. At Douglas Street, the intersection there, our safety study showed that it's experiencing crashes due to people that they fail to yield to the oncoming drivers because they're getting confused by what lane is the oncoming person in. Are they turning or are they going straight? So our investigation, we're looking at 3 alternatives. The first one is the base case, which is everything's related to is, the ones we're looking at, an improvement or not. The first one, the base case, keeps it just as it is today with no changes. So that's the first one. The second one would add what we call offset right turn lanes on Highway 23. The third alternative we're looking at would add left turn lanes on Wisconsin 23. No change in traffic control is being proposed at the intersection. It would still stay as a two-way stop north and southbound and free flow east-west. So no traffic signal, no roundabout. Those were looked at and were eliminated before we got to this point. Improvements at the at-grade railroad crossing that we're investigating is replacement of the crossing surface, subgrade improvement at the crossing, and then also the ped and bike accommodations at the crossing for improvement. And then depending upon the final scope of the project, are we doing a rehab, just routine maintenance, or are we doing a full pavement replacement? There may be opportunities to include as part of the project, upgrading the curb ramps to ADA standards, adding marked bike lanes, adding curb bump outs to shorten the crossing distance, and then at Douglas Street, dedicated turn lanes. Also in the project, there are several historic and recreational resources that we want the public's input on concerning the impacts of the project on those resources. The historic resources in the area include the National Registered listed Watson Street Commercial District. That's the big light blue shaded boundary there in downtown. The National Registered listed American Legion Hall at 133 East Fond du Lac Street. That's also shaded that light blue color. And then there's a potentially eligible property for the National Register. It's the church at 415 East Fond du Lac Street, and that's shaded purple up there on the maps. The recreational resource in the project is the Pedrick Wayside, which is in the southwest corner of West Fond du Lac Street and Union Street, and that's got kind of a green hatching to it up there. It's different from the rest of the roadway there. So what are the next steps? After tonight, our team will continue working on refining the alternatives, identifying and quantifying the environmental impacts of those alternatives, and also the project. Then next winter, we'll hold a second round of public involvement where we will present the recommended alternative and the proposed final scope of work for the project. And then the environmental document will be finalized after that and submitted for approval, with approval anticipated by fall of 2026. And with that, I'm going to turn it back over to Ryan to take us to the end.
Thanks. So like Chuck said, we're really early in the design process, but we want to get everyone involved. So making you aware now of how to stay informed, and there's going to be a project website. The project website is not active yet, so there's a link now to the Northeast Region list of projects, and this will be added hopefully by the end of this week. If not next week, it should be able to be added. So visit the Northeast Region's project website, and it'll soon be added to that. And then business coordination. The DOT has had a lot of experience with businesses and keeping customers up to date, and the best thing for businesses to do is get involved early. The DOT's website, this We're in This Together website, has gone through and provided a lot of examples of what has worked for other businesses in the past. So as we progress further and you see the scope of the project, you'll get a better idea of how it might impact your business, and then you can come back to us with those concerns and with information, so we can account for that with our design. So nobody knows how your business operates like you do, so we encourage your feedback and your concerns. So this is the contact list. Missy is the region communications manager, and I'm the project manager. Encourage emails, phone calls with questions or concerns. And like I mentioned before, the packets that you have has the comment form. So if you want to fill those out now and submit them in the comment box in the back, we welcome that. If you want to take them home, mail them, or scan them and email them, that works too. So that concludes the presentation. If you have general questions related to schedule or concept in general, we could take those questions now while we're as a group. Otherwise, we'll kind of break up and take project-specific questions next to the exhibits.